committee and and Bernie Fedorowicz is the past president of the Legion. And we're here today to representing the Manning Community Enhancement Committee in partnership with the Manning number 139 Royal Canadian Legion and the Manning Youth Centre Association. We are seeking your support for our community development project, which includes the creation of walking paths, the development of the town centre, and enhancements to the skate park and skating rink. Our project aims to significantly improve the quality of life for both the town and county residents by providing safe, accessible, and enjoyable spaces for recreation and community gatherings. The key components of our project are development of interconnected walking paths throughout the community, promoting healthy lifestyles and providing safe routes for walking, jogging, and cycling, revitalization of the town center to create a vibrant, attractive, and functional space for businesses and community events, enhancing the aesthetic appeal and usability of public spaces, upgrading the existing skate park to meet modern standards and safety requirements, providing a dedicated space for youth to engage in physical activity and social interaction. We are applying for the Community Facility Enhancement Program grant, and this is a matching grant that allows the group to use cash and donated time and equipment as matching funds. We will be applying for the maximum small projects funding of $125,000 with our matching contribution of $125,000 for a total of $250,000. In today's competitive climate, attracting and retaining skilled workers, particularly medical staff such as nurses and doctors, it's critical for the growth and sustainability of our community. By enhancing and developing lifestyle opportunities, we can make our community more attractive to both current residents and potential new residents of both the town and the county. This project will improve health and well-being. The walking paths and upgraded skate park area and skating rink will encourage physical activity, contributing to the overall health and well-being of our residents. It will boost local economy by revitalized town center will attract businesses and visitors, stimulating economic growth. It will strengthen community bonds, and these enhancements will provide spaces for social interaction, fostering a sense of community and belonging. We are very pleased that Gloria Decken will be joining our group as a county representative. We look forward to working with her and benefiting from her insights and contributions. A significant portion of our members, both within the Enhancement Committee and the Legion, have been past residents of the county for many years. Presently, I recently moved to Manning from our farm in Deadwood, where I lived for the past 50 years, similar to Norma and Bernie here. And many of us still own land in the county and pay taxes here. We see this as a fantastic opportunity to work together. Whether as residents of the town or the county, we share the same goals of improving our community and strengthening community bonds. By coming together, we can achieve great things and create a vibrant, supportive environment for all. We kindly request the County of Northern Lights to provide a letter of support for our project. Your endorsement will greatly enhance our grant application and demonstrate the broader community backing necessary for its success. So thank you for considering our request, and we believe that with your support, we can create a more vibrant, healthy, and attractive community for all our residents. We look forward to working together to make this vision a reality. Are there any questions?
Yeah, well, it's a great initiative. Is this a federal or a provincial grant?
It's a provincial. Yeah.
And so, say if you're denied the grant, which is always possible.
Always possible.
What would that do to your project then?
Well, it would delay it greatly. Yeah. We would probably wait and reapply. Because this is one of the best grants to apply for in Alberta. So the chances of success are fairly good. I've had quite a bit of experience in applying for grants for the daycare and stuff. So the school, not the school division, but the group that is applying for this same grant for the playground, which you guys gave us a letter of support for. The money pot is renewed every January, so we wouldn't be in competition with them. This would be a new cycle.
Okay, yeah, because that might be a deterrent if you were both applying for the same community. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And so what's kind of the timeline when they would let you know?
It's long. It's 6 months. Yeah, at least 6 months.
And then your share of the 50%. I see you're allowed to use donated time and equipment as matching funds, so that would be a big part of it then.
That's right. Yeah, and the town is donating the land, which has got a value on it.
So that's the old APCO site, or?
Yes, yes, yeah. And so yeah, so we're pretty close to achieving the 125,000. So we're pretty confident we'll get it. So yeah, so at this time this has to be in by January. And they also, in the grant, they call it pending funds, so we don't have to have it in our bank account, we just have to have a good portion. So the Manning Youth Center Association, which started this, they have donated 40,000 to this. Mm-hmm. So that was our start, and we're leveraging it for this project.
You'd be looking for any corporate sponsorship?
Yes, we have applied to Richardson, and they have kind of committed 25,000. So we're counting on that. We're hoping we get it. We haven't got it in our bank account yet.
Well, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't give you a letter of support, but I'll let council ask questions if they have any. Pardon me?
I said I look forward to working on it.
Yeah.
Great.
You let your little tractor do the tobacco on it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's no other questions. Thanks, you guys, for coming in, and
Thank you.
we'll discuss this later at the end of our meeting, and
Okay.
look forward that we can give that letter of support and
Okay.
get you off and running.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, the Legion is going to be the nonprofit organization that'll be officially applying for the grant in partnership with the Community Enhancement Committee, and we're trying to increase our relevance in the community, etc. And this is one opportunity that we thought we would have in enhancing that relativity in our community. Our most important one is, of course, was held yesterday, which is a Remembrance Day. But we're also, part of our mandate is to support our country and communities. So that's what we're trying to accomplish with this as well. And in saying that, you're all invited to join the Legion if you so desire. We can provide you with that.
Yeah, so we're really encouraging you to join the Legion.
I know I'm talking to one of the councillors in the town, and the location of this park is so close to Legion, so you could have outdoor activities.
Right.
Weather said otherwise, you could just quickly move across to the Legion, right?
Right.
If you're having an outdoor farmers market or an outdoor event. And
yeah, no, it's it is really needed in the community, because we don't really have that hub. We don't have that hub. So
right.
Yeah.
And presently we're the sponsoring organization for the farmers market as well. So that's why they're in
the grant is good. The Legion is going to be, their name will be on the grant application.
They are the grant application, because the Community Enhancement Committee are not nonprofit. This is only open to nonprofit. And so it's not open to municipalities or to for-profit organizations. So that's how we became a partner.
That makes sense.
Is there a limit on the funding you can apply for?
There isn't. This is the called the small project. Then there is a fund for large projects, which goes up to, I think, $1 million, something like that. So, so it is divided into two different projects. Yeah. So this is the maximum for the small projects, and hopefully down the road we can apply for a large project.
Yep, and I mean, there's always other grants come along too, I suppose, right? And
For
you
sure.
guys are not a nonprofit, so you can't apply for casinos or anything, but maybe,
Right.
you know, some other group.
Yeah.
that could
Yeah.
support.
No, there's great possibilities.
Well, good luck.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Here, second delegation's not until later. Yeah, just a reminder to speak loudly in your microphone so that Galen can hear us.
Teresa, do you have batteries? I do too.
5-0 is our policy proposed bylaw number 24-31-497. This is about the speed zone, speed maximums and county roads. As you recall, we discussed it and gave it first reading. So it's here today for second reading. So you can have a motion to move it to second reading, and then we can have a discussion before we have a vote. Okay, Councillor Reese moves to give second reading to the bylaw 24-32-497 to establish maximum speed limits on county roadways. So any discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was approached by one of my residents and they're not in favor of it. I'm wondering does it have to be a county-wide thing, or can we pick and choose who and where we put these?
So it is picked, right, Gary? Like if you go down to the bottom there, like it's not every area, right? It's just in hamlets and residential subdivisions.
They have a problem with this. They figure if they're gonna speed, it doesn't matter where they're, like it's gonna be speeding at any time. And that this is slowing everything down too much. And see a real problem in
Was this the one that emailed us?
pardon me?
Was this the resident that emailed us?
Mhm.
So the slowing things down. Buses, for example, talking with the transportation manager for the school division. They're going to have to adjust a minute to 2 minute stops. So the slowing things, I understand the frustration of change. Not a fan of change myself. This is something that has come up repeatedly from residents all over the county in these residential areas. That yes, people are speeding through, and are the speeders going to actually follow the speed limit? You're already breaking the law, maybe you won't, but as I pointed out in that email, there's the psychology behind it is that most people will go 10 to 12 kilometers an hour over your posted speed limit. So dropping it to 30, these speeders are likely going to be doing 40, 42. And that was a study that was done by Transport Canada. So that's best I can offer for that. I mean, if they're speeding through, by all means, report to the RCMP. They've already had I believe it was 400 and some reports this year alone. From our county, nowhere else, just within our county. Of people speeding through these areas, right? So. It's a problem that we're having. Something else that you'll see come budget time is we're looking to get more of these speed boards to show how fast people are actually driving through the hamlets, because sometimes that's a deterrent. This is best we can do, I think, anyway.
So this started with, if I remember right, there was some residents in Naughty Q who were complaining about speeding.
Yeah, it's not just them.
No, but I mean, I agree with Gary that maybe we should maybe be narrowing down to the kind of the known problem areas like the hamlet, like Dixonville, Naughty Q and North Star possibly, and these other country residential areas. I mean, 50. If the RCMP are getting 400 some complaints, obviously people are exceeding 50 by a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if they were held to 50, that's reasonable, really. I don't know, we have to go down to
So-
30, but that's.
Since this has come out, and in my report here to you guys, I kind of highlighted it, is that there were some areas that were missed and people had emailed and or called. Saying that, well, why can't we be dropped down to 30? There's a fair amount of support to have these residential areas down to 30. These are narrow roads and they're short. 50 is excessive in the grand scheme of things. Especially when you got kids and dogs and pedestrians walking the roads in those areas. I mean, whatever you guys want to do, that's we'll do. That's why it was set up this way.
So in the hamlet of Dixonville, hasn't most of the complaints been about the secondary highway?
There have been some about the secondary, but there is also a fair amount for the actual main street. So the one that the
Okay,
stores.
the one that goes north and
Yeah.
south. Cause I'm thinking the other two roads, like on both sides of the school, they'd already been.
I don't think they actually are. Don't quote me on that. Not 100% sure.
On the south side, like the field, baseball field or whatever, it goes right to the road.
I think that's 50 as well.
So I was
Because you
thinking
think,
that was already 30, but
because the
maybe
schools.
it's not. Yeah, yeah.
And that's only during the certain hours, right?
Yeah, so there has also been, and I told you guys this already, but there was also a petition that went to get the school zone index and they'll change to an actual playground zone so that it's year round
Oh,
till sunset. Or an hour after sunset.
Guess the calls that I just received is that we don't have a bylaw officer changing the signs, spending all the money doing that. Is it going to be? Is it going to help?
I got a few of those as well, but all the money. We have 30 signs in inventory. It's a simple matter of if somebody's in that area, changing the sign out. The bylaw enforcement, yes, of course, that's an issue that the RCMP or sheriffs usually deal with when it comes to speeds, but
And I click right on.
Gonna start writing tickets if we get you.
You don't have bylaw enforcement officer.
So you have record of how many complaints you've had and where? the
Yeah,
complaints
like
come from,
it's
which
been
areas?
steady from since I've been here. We gotten calls. Just.
It's just on social media, well, on Facebook,
Oh.
there's all kinds of negative
Yeah,
comments.
I
And
don't live it
like
but
fewer are positive.
but yeah, like I've received emails that are fully in support of this, phone calls that asking questions and they were kind of on the fence about it, and then explained the thinking behind it, and then, oh yeah, no, that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, and I guess if the calls and the concerns are coming from the people in the hamlets and in the subdivisions, I mean, they're the ones that are, they're the ones that are not in any subdivision or any, and making these calls to us saying, giving their opinions, I guess. They sort of look at who lives there as well, right?
Well, so if that's true, and I have no reason to believe it's not true, if that's, you're getting people calling to support this that are actually residents, like what I said, those are the ones that are, that matter, yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I might drive through Hamlet once or twice a year. I don't really have a need to most times, and
Yeah.
I'll be the speed limit or whatever, and that's the people that live there daily, right? They're the ones that would.
They gotta put up with it.
So I never heard that before, that we're having such an outreach, that they were wondering why they weren't included, or they're supporting this. And
Yeah, and that was, actually that email that I had gotten that, brought to our attention that one of the subdivisions was missing off of our bylaw. Then I dug through all of them, painful process, but went through all the subdivisions and, found that there was actually 2 that was. So included those in here as well. Just so that everything's represented. And I mean, there's some of these subdivisions as well that are already against the main road. So those don't get included. So not every single subdivision is in here, because some of them are along Township Road 850. There's a set of 4 or 5 different parcels that's technically a subdivision.
So the one that's in Cave River that you included.
Yeah.
That's a subdivision?
No, that's a bridge. That's the
Okay,
big one.
so the question was from my people, is that whole road you're wanting it to be 50 or just?
No, just that portion that's already 50. That's not changing, Linda.
Okay, because that's what they, when we looked at the map, it looks like you're having it right from the, where it shows green. We're having it right from the speed corner all the way up past Dennis's.
On this map. Yeah, so it goes from the highway. It might
The
be a
50
little.
sign was right by the bridge. That's where.
Is it right by the bridge?
Right by
Okay,
the
'cause
bridge,
yeah,
and then on the other side of it.
The maps that we had it previously had it.
Cause it was 80, and then where you come to the bridge, it's past, you know, there's a sign there, please slow down.
Yeah.
If there's somebody on the bridge, but the 50 sign was just before the bridge,
Okay,
okay, that's what their concern is. I mean, most of us don't go over 50 anyways on that piece because it's kind of windy.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah,
just wanna make sure it's just still,
yeah, that we weren't
portion of
planning
the
on
bridge.
changing anything. It just,
it's still.
you would just change the signs where they are from 50 to 30 on that same signpost.
no,
it's
no,
say 50.
Cave River is
50.
not getting changed.
It just
Cave
never
River is
showed
50,
before.
drops from 80 to 50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's good, okay.
Yeah.
So nothing changes.
So we're
Nothing
saying
changes.
then from, well, by the time they get up to 80, they'll be past the bridge anyways. You know what I'm getting at, though,
Yeah.
that's what they were concerned about, because.
Yeah, this was a drawing I did from my office on it,
Okay.
so it's not perfect, but
Cause they don't mind the 50 by the bridge
Yeah.
and around the corner, you know, and then we'll go back to 80 right on that.
yeah, no,
Right
that's
for the
none of that's
township.
changing. That's staying the same.
Any comment?
Joel, so we advertised this more than 2 weeks ago, so it was, I think, 4 weeks ago already.
Yeah, so it was advertised in 2 weeks in the newspaper, Facebook.
Did you receive any formal letters of objection from the public?
Some emails, yes,
But no,
but
that was-
not an actual letter, no.
So I think we should maybe, and this is just a recommendation, maybe pass it, and if there's any real concerns from the citizens, they can either bring a petition or something for a specific area, and we can change those individual ones rather than start at nitpick or scrap the whole thing, because I think there's definitely value in this. And that would also bring in support and people who's not signing, if they're not in support of reducing or taking the speed back to the current limits.
And maybe some of those specific areas would be identified then, that there's no, but what I'm hearing that there's, most of the people are supporting it that live
Yeah,
in those areas.
there's a fair amount of support and of course, there's people that object to it, but that's kind of.
But are the people that object to it, are those residents in the hamlets or from outside areas?
I believe they're from outside areas.
Well,
There's one that, the one that Gary was talking
my
about.
resident is living in that Aspen, or, Aspen Grove, I think, and that's for 25 years now, so. It's,
Never had an issue.
no, and that's why she's objecting to it.
Some of those places, the roads are so short, like you can't even get up to it.
Well, and that's
That's
just, that's
So.
part of my thinking behind this
Yeah,
is
so
why
it's
have it
already-
posted. Okay? That's just my thinking behind it.
Well, I mean, people start saying, oh, why do we have stop signs? You know, I've been living here, I've never stopped there before. So I mean, you gotta set some order, right? And whether they obey it, that's their choice, I guess. And like Brenda said, and I agree, like the hamlets, you'd be hard pressed to get to 50 from one stop sign to the next anyway, right? There's that short spans. We're not doing kilometers and kilometers of road that we're restricting. And,
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Go ahead, Caitlin.
I was just gonna say, I've taken a few calls back and forth too. The biggest complaint is, oh, you don't have a bylaw officer, so what's the point of changing them? Which I agree, but at the same time, it gives the RCMP tools and teeth to enforce something if they do get a call, right? But yeah, it's been a mixed bag of tricks from what I've been hearing too. So. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna post a sign and people are gonna choose to follow it or not anyway.
Okay, any other discussion, questions?
So most of these have already a 50 sign up that we're changing to a 30.
Yes, yeah, they would, yeah. So then we'll just take signs from our shed and swap over 50s for 30s.
So I heard you say you already have those signs. It's not even gonna be.
We have some, we might have to order a few,
Right.
but we have a
How much
majority.
does it cost? Because that's one of the biggest questions. It's gonna cost us a lot of money.
It's not a lot,
Well.
You're
you know
gonna
what I'm
be-
saying?
$300-400, I would imagine.
That's, that's where they're all,
No, total. Yeah, not each, they're not, definitely not that expensive, so.
yeah. I have a couple in my yard. From there too.
You're the sign.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah, bullet holes in them?
They've been sitting there just like that. Not in the yard I'm living in.
Yeah.
The old yard.
Yeah, so you're thinking what you have in inventory and a few you have to order.
Yeah, we'll
Less than
probably. have to order a
$1,000,
few,
right?
but Yeah, like, we're not looking at a huge expense.
Right.
Then as far as replacing the signs, when the guys are out in that area doing something else, they can stop and throw up the sign and carry on their way.
Just thinking out loud here again, like I'm always doing is, so we get these 400 complaints from RCMP. They go out, maybe if they have time, they'll go out and patrol an area. And if there is any fines given out, does the county get a portion of that? Because I know on the highway we
Oh, we
do.
did?
On the highway we do, right? So I didn't know about the county roads, how that works and.
Don't, so Terry. So, yeah, I was not aware that that was an actual thing. But
So we're not making any money, there you go.
Well.
not until we get Gerhard his radar. gun.
And so the RCMP will be notified as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the RCMP and everybody that's affected. Right?
And then hopefully they'll patrol a little more often. maybe?
I'm thinking they will.
at least at the start, and,
Show a bit of presence.
I think it's worth a try, but I would like to revisit in, say a year's time and compare
Yeah.
the stats,
No, we can,
how many complaints we're getting, how that change.
absolutely.
And
Okay.
just a comment, Brenda, that's something too, like, that I can bring up to our RCMP advisory committee, and they always ask for feedback and areas to check or whatever, so I could say, we're implementing this and we'd like to see your presence there more too.
That'd be great.
Okay, final chance for discussion, questions? Not, call a vote, all in favor? Opposed? Galen?
In favor.
Okay, that's carried 6-1. We'll move to third and final reading.
Who made the previous motion?
Councillor Reese made the second.
Did the second.
Yeah, it's already up there. Got it right. So I'm looking for a motion to give third and final reading.
I'll move.
Councillor Shun. Final chance for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And Kevin, you made the motion, so I'm assuming you're in favor, so that's a 6-1. It's carried. Phew. Okay, we can move down to 6.1.1. Item A is Christmas office hours. Jared, what are you suggesting?
So in previous years, we closed down that week of Christmas. So we already approved for next year in our calendar one that we brought to the organization. And so this, we just asking that we do the same for this year. So obviously Wednesday, December the 25th is a stat already. Same with the 26th, and then Friday we would mark as a floater day, and then the other 2 days staff would take their full special leave.
They just have to
That's
use
good.
something.
Something.
Not everybody uses those for that, so it's some form of paid time off. And then outside workers obviously is weather dependent.
Yeah, they're
I
on
believe it's a payroll week, so there will probably be 1 or 2 of us in here anyway, but keeps the office closed.
Okay, any discussion on that? So basically, the office will be closed that whole week.
So there's normally not a lot of people that go, I want to pay my taxes right now.
But if there's an emergency, they have a number of calls, like that's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, our public works is on call as of the beginning of this month, so.
And this doesn't matter, these hours are only for the, in the building or.
That's the building alone. If there's utility or road emergencies, they can get the on-call people, so.
Make the motion.
Okay, Councillor Sinski moves to acknowledge receipt and close the office as described there. Discussion? All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, thanks, Galen. Oh, that's carried. Item B is appointment of the 2025 municipal elections returning officer.
Yes, it is election season coming up. As I am not a Canadian citizen, I'm not allowed to be in that building at that time. I think we've got sabotage it or something. So Teresa gracefully said she would run again as a returning officer, and we're also looking at appointing a alternate in Carly, as she's done it before for the town. And this is just a formal appointment of the two then as returning and alternate.
Yep, pretty straightforward.
Motion that we
Councillor Decken has moved that we appoint
put Carly's last name in there.
Teresa and Carly. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, that's carried. And item C is an addition, BC Hydro Indian maps, whatever you say that big word.
Yeah, so, site C is full now, or we know. And, we know from discussion with BC Hydro that it's built on material that is not a usual, strata for a dam of that size. They've confirmed that itself. And, I think for the information of our citizens, it'll be probably only of interest to those that live in the Peace Valley, but I think it would be advantageous to have this information available, not for all the maps, just for those that pertain to our county. Have it available for those people that live in the Peace Valley, well, anyone that wants it, but because there's good information on there. It's not just the height of the potential flood waters, but also the time it takes for that water to get here from whatever dam it be. And this would help people plan. Because I know there's people out there that there's a lot of disinformation of it. Some people think the water is going to be right to the top of the banks if the Bennett Dam were to fail. Well, it's not the case. It's going to be quite high, but nothing like that. So with our new website, perhaps this would be something that would fit in there. With our other information, the technical aspects we have concern with.
Well, we could get it all up, no problem, as far as I know. I don't know what format there, I've never seen them. Right, so I
Or
don't
just put links to it, or would that?
What, you have them, correct, or we have them?
We have them here, we have the original ones that BC Hydro sent, and then I believe there was an upgrade later on to the province.
And were they like a mapping file that looked through as some kind of a mapping system, or was it just a PDF document that had a bunch of pictures? PDFs? Like I said, I've never seen them, so I just don't know what it looked like, but regardless, we can put a link up.
So there's a couple of files on there now that probably.
And
Yeah, so we can just make a page for it on the website.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be valuable for our emergency management people as well, right, to have that information readily accessible. I mean, obviously, you found it here in a couple of clicks.
yeah, and there's two communities in BC that have it right on their website. Like, you can go right into it. So yeah, I think there would be value in this. Again, considering what sort of terrain they built the dam on.
Okay.
So I'll make this motion as it should be for the Bennett Dam as well. Bennett.
Yeah, might as well put the Peace Canyon one in there.
Peace Canyon one, it wouldn't hurt to put it on there, although it's not much of a dam, it's more of a run of the river, but we have that as well, so we might as well make it available.
Bennett is
Yeah,
B-E-N-N-E-T. No, O-N. Okay, looks good, Brent?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
In favor.
Yep, thanks, Caitlin. That's carried. 6.1.5, item A, year-to-date budget. Josh.
Back to you guys again after, it's been a month, so. There with many of the same comments you've seen before. Same format that you guys have seen before. So I guess really just there for any questions, maybe would be the best way to approach that.
I just noticed under number 11, contracted services, a lot of the items are way under budget. Just
So
wondering why that is.
The bulk of that is just the period of time we're at and whether we've received invoices or not.
Oh,
So
it's
road
not
ma-
like the work hasn't been done.
No, so
Okay.
I wrote this report, we got the last invoice from Elaine, for example. The road maintenance, that's like 600 grand under. I think we've only had invoices from September, we probably didn't even have all the October invoices from our contract graders, so it's. Part of it is timing, things like bridge maintenance, those are only spent in the winter months anyway. So, yeah, we were just talking, yeah.
Okay, well, that's
East River, like the first comment says there, it's all technically contracted services anyway. They invoice us sporadically, sometimes it's every second or third month. This year is gonna be once for the whole year and then probably another batch in January when they figure out what they missed, so.
it's more concerned with like the road maintenance.
I figured that was the big numbers, I guess.
So that's the reason for the variance here, town piece of rights, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So we haven't made the second payment there to them. They're working on it. That was the comment I got 3 weeks ago, so.
But the council grants MRCCA,
So you have an outstanding motion that provides operating support. I just haven't made the check out to them yet, so that one is drafted now.
who is that, the
That's the daycare, Manning Regional Child Care Association.
acronyms?
Yeah, sorry, you've seen that one before though, so
Yeah.
the ones that are kind of common, I leave on there.
Thousands of them running through your head all the time.
Yeah, oh, it gets, your council grants budget is the worst one for that too. And then SPA, same thing, so. Going through and preparing these reports is kind of when I catch those, so.
So, what I can gather from this, is we're doing okay, we're on budget, and we don't know yet. because
Not expecting to be over budget by any means at this point in the year, but.
Okay, any other questions for this report? Seeing none, ask for a motion to, Councillor Deacon, all in favor? Carried. And then, you can have your Director of Finance update report.
So I can get it here. So just a few things to do here. So first of all, it's November, so that is typically when we can expect a visit from our auditors. So when I wrote this, we were looking at having them up the 18th and 19th. So which is what they're shooting for. I just haven't got confirmation yet. Originally they had asked for the 25th and 26th, and that's just, it's a council meeting day, and then I'm actually away the 25th, so we're working around it. They try and pair the visit up though with another client that's fairly close, just so we can split the travel bill. But anyways, they will be up for 2 days. After that, looking at scheduling a budget committee meeting, so ideally looking to meet as council as a whole as the budget committee with us, just to go through and discuss changes before it comes to council for a formal adoption. Ideally, we like to have the preliminary budget adopted in your meeting in December. Try and stick to that again this year. We're late, there's ways around it, but and Gerhard, what day, we just kind of talked about some options here.
Wednesday the 27th.
Yeah. So if that's gonna work for council, we can sneak that into the motion.
I didn't catch the date. We said the 27th?
Yeah, that's right.
It's a Wednesday, I do believe.
Yes, it is a Wednesday. And then your last item, the tax penalty.
Yeah, so that's just for council's awareness, in accordance with your bylaw, we've are charging our 8% penalty as of November 1st. So based on what's outstanding, a lot of which is old, and also penalties is gonna be subject to that, so we're expecting it to be about 330,000 that's charged. Keeping in mind that a good chunk of that oil and gas related is probably gonna be written off.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Any questions for Josh on this? not, I'll get a motion to accept the Director of Finance report and set the budget meeting for November 27th at 9 a.m. Councillor Helavisky makes that motion. Any clarification, discussion? All in favor? Carried. You're okay with that, Kayla, the 27th?
Yep, good with that.
Okay, it's carried. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, we're rolling right along. I was gonna take a break, but let's get Charles out of the way here first. Second page, 6.3, item A, the Director of Public Works report.
Yeah, so as the construction season is over, these reports get a little thinner, but some excellent news. Our Kodiak is running at 100%. Everybody, please knock on wood. We also did the apron lights. I don't know if you guys remember seeing them, but they're those big red and white lights up by the actual terminal. Changed them all for LEDs, and it is very great. Looks great. If you'll remember, we had Dixonville truck fill exhaust vent that wasn't quite working properly or was designed poorly. So that has been fully completed finally after months of waiting on parts and contractors and all that fun stuff. And tenders and RFPs. We have a bridge maintenance tender coming out here probably by the end of the month. It's ready to go, and we're just kind of waiting for everybody to get all their bids and get rejected out from other municipalities and the province, and then scoop up some cheap work. As well as crushing engineering for Gillis Pit is good to go, and they'll get posted around the same time. One other thing that's not in here, that I told Gerhard there on Monday last week, but I ended up, or sorry, Friday. I myself have been appointed as a director on the Alberta chapter of the Alberta or American Public Works Association. So that focuses on helping grow and educate public works staff. So it's a long process, but
It's North American, you said?
yeah, it is for North America, but it's called the American Public Works Association.
Where's your first meeting in Hawaii or?
I wish it's all virtual. So I get to sit up in the cold weather and talk on Teams. But they no, it was it seems like a good group of people, and we're looking forward to getting some good things happening.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. But that's all I got for you.
So at RMA last week, I can't remember who it came from for sure, but I remember hearing a message that the STIP funding. The big topic was infrastructure deficit that we're approaching, right? That it's just going to be out of control in 10 years, and we need some, you know, some provincial aid, federal aid, wherever. We can't go it on our own anymore at the current rate. But when we do these STIP applications, we should be applying for everything that we've been determined that's in need of replacement or repair, not try to just kind of select out the top priority ones is the message that I brought back. And the reason being, knowing that you're never going to get them all, right? But just put awareness on the provincial, you know, budget, that how dire things are, right? That it's not just these 3 or 4 that we're applying for, it's 20 we're applying that need repairs, right?
They are well aware.
Well,
So
does it hurt to remind them though by doing that, or what?
So the problem with doing that is it would be like you receiving 80 applications from one nonprofit or whatever for funding. When you receive a bulk mass like that, then you don't, the people reviewing it don't know where your actual priorities lie. We're very fortunate in the fact that the guy that our engineer with most is used to review STIP applications. So he's very well versed on the process behind the scenes once these are submitted. So the problem with doing that, which these guys will end up getting overwhelmed and seeing 80 bridges from the county of Northern Lights. They'll go, well, okay, we're gonna set these to the side and we're gonna deal with other areas and we might look for one or two. But the problem is now you're going to end up with your priorities not being met.
You know, you're gonna water down the whole.
Yeah, you water down everything when you put in that many applications.
So,
It's-
and I don't disagree with that, but I guess, and you said they are aware of it, but I
Yeah,
just think we have to keep driving that message home now. And
Oh,
maybe
for sure.
this is maybe not the way to do it, but.
No, this is definitely not the way to do
I
it,
think
but
they heard pretty good convention, you know, from a few different people about infrastructure situation.
Yeah. No, it was a
yeah, and so
topic.
what I'm hearing from both the provincial side and from other municipalities and the engineering world is we are not alone in the fact that bridges are failing everywhere. It's not isolated to us, and
Yeah.
everybody is aware of this.
It's beyond just bridges, I mean, roads.
Oh, yeah, it's.
Water lines, sewer lines, I mean, it's the whole thing is reaching its best before date, right?
Yeah. And that's part of the problem, you build all this infrastructure at the same time and then hand it over and
Yeah.
everything's gonna expire at the same time.
For years, we've been just putting out fires.
Oh, yeah,
Like
and
we
it's gonna be like that for a very long time. I don't love that, but we're doing the best we can with what we have, and we're trying to put Band-Aids on the things that are minor bleeds and
When
tourniquets on the
closing
hemorrhaging.
bridges, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of worst case scenario, we have to start shutting bridges and roads down
Yeah.
because we can't afford to keep them open. But,
Well, and that's so this year we are applying for the Blue Bridge up in Keg River through STIP. It'll be our only application that we put in because it is such a big project. That one is a high success rate for getting funding because multiple reasons. One, it's an old truss bridge from Edmonton. They got trucked up here decades ago. And the province wants to get rid of those. Second is it is a detour route for if something happens on the highway. So that they can detour people around and keep traffic moving. So those are the two main things that are highly likely to get that bridge replaced.
How did that one up in Carthage go that you showed us that they were gonna pull a pipe through the existing pipe? Is that
That's gonna be done through the winter.
through the winter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
And then,
if that's successful, I mean, that's a brilliant way to do it rather than.
yeah, and that's how a lot of these are going now, because it is the cheaper option. It's just as good as putting in a brand new pipe. You don't have to dig out 5 meters of fill.
We'll build a detour.
Build a detour and all that, right? So it's a way easier option than actual open excavation. The bridge deck for Smith Mills Road is fully built. We are just waiting on it to get transported up here. And then through the winter, we'll put pilings in, throw bridge deck on, a little bit of dirt work, not much dirt work really, but plop everything in and could be good.
So that bridge in King, is it going to be wide enough for somebody?
Chances are it will be wider than it is now, because it's
I mean, it depends
Because
on how
even as a
hard.
detour load, what I'm thinking when you're talking about detour, when you get some of those wide road, roads coming through, plus the farmers,
oh,
they were asking about that,
well, some because of how that bridge is,
well, you can't,
the height.
yeah, good.
The height to your load is a factor as well. So
There's
with
a
taking,
cover on it.
taking that off, that'll help a little bit on that side of things, and it will be built to today's standards, not to 1940 standards.
A lot of times the guardrails are your limiting factor on those wide loads like farm machinery, so hopefully they're not real high like some of them you see.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're interested or not, but our resolution on engineering accountability, it still didn't pass, but it gained a lot of
Yeah,
traction from
I
last time.
recall
we did
that,
that. So, and surprising how many people came up to us after and said, can't understand why people didn't support that better, right? And, you know, it's a simple ask, right?
Well, so I think people are a little nervous, because it was actually brought up at our side of the RMA. Contractor valuations, like, so every government entity, I shouldn't say every, but most are doing contractor valuations. From Alberta transportation to municipalities like ourselves. Nobody wants to share that information because we got thinking about it and we brought it up in our side of convention, and it was, well, I didn't bring it up, so it was there, but the gist of it is nobody wants to share that information because municipality A doesn't want to get sued by contractor B because they said to the County of Northern Lights, oh yeah, I wouldn't work with them, and they did whatever, right? And did poor work.
Well, I mean,
People are a little nervous.
I mean, it depends on the language how you say that, right?
Oh, for
Just
sure.
A grading system say, well, contractor B, didn't meet this,
Yeah,
you know,
and
over
so
price.
None of it has to be libelous, it's just based on the level of satisfaction of that.
oh, for sure, and it's just,
municipality, and I.
And you can still use contractor B even after you read all that information, if you still choose to use them, that's your choice, right?
oh,
So.
for sure. But yeah, it's just something people are a little nervous
Yeah,
about
well,
and don't want to have to deal with lawyers.
I'm just gonna say that's well, down to lawyers.
Perhaps our, if we pursue this, perhaps our resolutions should cover law firms too, because that's also a problem. You know, maybe we get more support if we included law firms on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the bridge issue, so at one time in Alberta, we had a standardized bridge design. For smaller, smaller, like would apply to about 90% of our bridges that we have here. With so many pilings, so many bridges and these bridges have served us wonderfully, they've, a lot of them are 60 years old and still, they've had some upgrades, but still serving us, in fact, better than some of our newest bridges. Now, bridges have to be specifically designed, engineered now for every application. Sure, it's driven up the cost a lot. Is there any value to lobbying to go to a standardized bridge design again, or that?
There already is. So bridges in particular, they've got their own spec, essentially, that's about that thing. And it details everything, how everything is supposed to be designed and built and constructed. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, at some point there was a change from my understanding of, standardized, so many pilings, so many sections to now each one specially engineered.
But they still follow a guideline. This is what I'm getting at. Like, it's not. Well, it all depends on your situation too, right? Like, you can't have a cookie cutter. One bridge fits all.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but the design was such that it was a flexible, so many pilings, so many sections, but they were all, the components were all the same. Or,
Yeah, that's typically what we are still. We don't, it doesn't vary very much, like there will be some variances on like piling depths and stuff like that, but as far as number of piles go, everything is in a design guide that is built and done by, assuming Transport Canada, but Alberta Transportation has.
okay, so you don't see any savings by
No.
modifying that formula?
No, I think and and it would be a massive undertaking. Because what they have now, their design guide is fairly comprehensive.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Charles. Any final questions for Charles? Not, I'll give a motion to accept his report. I'll make that, Councillor Thies, all in favor? Carried. Let's take a quick break. We got a delegation coming in here shortly. And we're gonna switch agendas. So, yeah, let's take a break and come back at quarter after. Lisa. Come under like these things didn't fall like ag service system. Kayla, are you back?
I am here.
Okay, we're ready to go again, I guess, so reconvene. 10:12. And we will move on page 2 again, 6.6.3 ag services. Item A is Ag Research and Extension Council. That's Alberta ag update.
Going to the Ag Service Board meeting,
No,
10:15.
No, these two items are gonna be on the regular agenda.
Okay.
What are we doing for?
The council agenda.
Because these are
But we do have to start our service board meeting at 10:15.
at 10:15.
We got 2 minutes.
10:15, we have a delegation at 10:20.
Yeah, are they gonna attend in person? I'm assuming.
I thought they were, but I have not heard from them.
Yeah, today.
Well, we can come back to these items and then go straight to the, because it's already 10:13, we won't get through these two items then, so. Let's during the regular meeting, we'll call to order our ag service board meeting. Yeah. 10:13, I know.
Okay. Just need a motion to adopt the agenda. Previous minutes.
Yeah, so I'll chair the meeting.
Oh, sure. If you want.
Yeah, well, I am ag service board chair, so. So, have a motion to adopt the agenda, any additions to the agenda first? Seeing none, get a motion to adopt it, Councillor Halibisky, all in favor? Minutes from our previous meeting on September the 10th. So, a while back, any discussion of those minutes? Any errors?
I'll move adoption.
Okay, Councillor Zinsky moves minutes, all in favor? It's carried. New business? Pardon me?
Oh, Chelsea, catch up.
Okay, new business,
Just a brief update.
Yep.
I don't know, feels like we've already done more of these than I kind of thought we initially would with these agendas, but just basically, wrapped up mowing, drainage ditches, kind of we went a little later into October, got quite a bit of rain there in June and July, especially the south half of the county seemed to be a little wetter, so the mowing progress was a bit slower. They had a couple breakdowns and they got 3 tractors up and running, and they actually into September actually made up quite a bit of ground. And then we were last just doing the drainage ditches going around here towards the end of October when the ground was a little froze up. Did some removal of some beaver dams and a few drainage ditches. Rental equipment was pretty busy nonstop. The water pump, I think it's damn near gone out every day the last week, lots on weekends. Stayed busy, actually relatively undamaged, so that was a good, nice stretch rental income. Cattle chute went out twice, sprayer once.
is that water pump, is that about kind of normal 20 times?
Yeah, that's what, usually it's like 3 times a year, but it's probably been out since like counting last fall, like going into the dry summer and last fall, it's probably been out like 40 times last year. So that's like unseasonable. You know, it's probably actually went out in the last year more than the entire 10 years I've been here before that.
Right.
So it's been getting used well.
Indicator of the drought, eh?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of guys, you know, just if we get another 3rd winter of no snow, guys don't want to leave it to chance spring. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of guys are saying, I'm hoping we get a lot of snow because I already pumped out all the dugouts in a 1 mile radius to fill my home dugout. So we're kind of hoping we get a couple feet of snow this winter, or else guys will be scrambling or have to use both trailers to get out to 2 miles dugouts to pump, right?
be like, Powell Prairie, they're trucking water from
Yeah,
the rural pits.
they messaged us this summer about wanting to rent our water pump equipment. We told them we would lend it out to them, and they called a couple times requesting it, and then kind of never could put it together, but we were willing to share our equipment with them. But I guess they're all in water maybe is easier now that they're rigged up doing that, but
Yeah.
The hallway.
oh, like a month or a day or oh, geez.
Yeah, we went up to the creek there, and there was trucks on both sides of the settlement.
Oh,
Backed up to rural pits and.
well, yeah, our stuff's still here if they want to use it. There's another 2 weeks of right around zero temperatures. Like if they did want to do something, I guess they're kind of running out of days now, but that's up to them, I guess. The Dodge 3500. We purchased, went and got the deck installed. It's actually done. I'm gonna go pick that up in Grand Prairie here sometime next week. And then just the Can-Am we brought to Thomas Homes and Peace River just to have some general servicing done. Other than that, the year went by pretty good. The girls got lots done, especially in July and August when it dried out. And we were able to spray up until damn near first week of October because we didn't get no frost. It was quite a late frost year, so we were able to do quite a bit of spraying. Basically spent 3-4 weeks touching up the Canada thistle in the areas we didn't mow. So hopefully that looks good for next year. That's basically my report, unless there's any questions over the last 2 months.
Choose the mold.
We have that on the council agenda.
That's coming on later on.
It's kind of confusing having these 2 agendas and what do we put where and trying to sort it all out.
It is, but. Pardon me, because,
It's money.
well, I can
Your
explain
ag
it,
service
because
board.
ag service board has no budget, right? So any of these other 2 items are gonna be budget items.
Yeah. And it's technically not a recommendation from an ag service board because we do the mowing for like drainage and brush control mostly, so. We figured it'd be better just to put it on council instead of talk about it here, then go back to the council. And then basically make the same motion twice.
So there is some overlap with public works, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, no, people. Need a motion on the report? Not. Typically do on our other agenda. Yeah, so looking for motion to acknowledge receipt. Okay, council, please makes that motion. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next item, 202, item A is Ag Service Board. The regional conference we had up in the creek, so comments and directions, so it's all there for you. It's a fairly lengthy PowerPoint that they provided there. It was a good, I think it was a good report, right? Gary, well presented. Our peace rep wasn't there, Bob.
Krennic.
Yeah, so kind of filled in, but this was from Carrie Ann, this report, so.
We more just put that here. It's not so much necessarily new business as old business. It's just if the counselors that attended the conference had anything to update, or if the ones that didn't attend had any questions specifically on what happened there, that maybe the people that attended could fill them in on it. I didn't make the conference. I was in Halifax, so. But if there's nothing there, just move that for the information.
I mean, one thing I made a note of, and I see it was on the report, was they kind of updated the seed cleaning plant. Inspection reports, so it's a lot simpler now, or?
Yeah, I haven't done the new form yet. For a while, they had it out as a trial, and we've just been sticking to the old form, because the old form's actually pretty simple. I'm not really sure why they changed it, but I heard the new one is even easier yet. But it's usually a process that takes less than 3 hours to complete once a year. We do ours in December. We certify the seed cleaning plant, just kind of as they're up and rolling. They get a certification that's good for 1 year.
Yeah, so. No questions coming out of that report? No direction for Blake to follow up on? Okay, we'll just give a motion to acknowledge that update as well on the conference. Councillor Reese, all in favor? Carried. And takes us down to our delegation who, oh, they're just walking in the door now. Jose, I'm coming up to the delegation table. You can grab a coffee or water first if you want, but. Okay.
Morning, how are you?
So, welcome, gonna look forward to the updates. We'll just introduce council to you first.
You bet.
Council is our Ag Service Board too, as you're probably aware, so we don't have any members at large, so I'll start at the far end of the table.
Every days, or rule.
Brenda Yasensky, Dixonville, Chinook Valley.
Or I can North Star Breaking Point.
Gary, Hotchkiss Hawk Hills,
Garrison, on the Sierra.
Teresa Tumber, Executive Assistant.
And now this keep taking the refugee.
Grand Reeve Terry Ungarian.
and we got Blake in the room and some other admin in the room as well, so. So yeah, what do you got first for the period? You got a PowerPoint? It looks like you're already bringing it up.
I don't think.
Oh, and sorry, we have one counselor on line 2 I missed. Go ahead, Caleb.
Caitlin Shug, I represent Warrensville, Lac Cardinal.
Awesome. I did bring a slide.
You did.
Or are you just capable of doing it?
You can share or I can put it in.
Uh.
I'll just do it. Then I can give you my mouse. You can get that. Maybe not. Has to be you. I got no more. Works. Yeah. Okay. Just up to Teresa.
So while she's loading that, you'll say you want to introduce yourself and your staff you brought along and.
Yeah, so I'm Jose Aiken. I've been the manager now for just not quite a year. Started as extension coordinator in 2023. I brought Amber with me, Amber Dima. She's been with Napera now for quite some time. She started as a summer student, now she's a full-time staff. And our other 2 staff members, full-times, Megan Wong and Dennis. They are both in Fairview today for meetings with Alberta Pulse and Alberta Grains. Otherwise, I apologize for not being here, but we had to split our resources into those meetings. Our other kind of is permanent staff member, but he's casual as Art. Aikenson, he works as our mechanic. And that's our full-time staff that we keep on all the time. Besides that, we do have summer students throughout the year. But yeah, thank you for allowing us to be here. It's been a while since I know we met with you guys. I know some of you guys, and I'm thankful for those that attended our farm and field tour. We hope you guys really like that. It's something we put a lot of work into. And yeah.
Formal reading.
It should say report. Thumb drive. Not recognizing it.
What you had in.
That's
Time is your board meeting on Friday
9
night?
at the office.
At the office in town?
Yes.
Yeah, been chitting for Gary that day, so.
But- It's not lighting up. That's normally light up once it's connected.
Back in. So I fixed it.
There it goes.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
No. Okay. Do you want the bottom one, the PowerPoint, or
I think the PowerPoint will work better.
you just have to make sure? Yeah, that's screen 2.
Great.
Yeah, go for it.
Good, you'll advance the screens for, yeah, good.
So yeah, just for those that aren't aware, although I'm pretty sure most of you guys are, is that we're a Applied Research Association, producer driven. Started in 1988 by a group of producers who wanted to kind of show the results in this area to compare it through the research that had been done in other places throughout Alberta. Currently, we are being governed by a board of directors based off of the county. So we have several directors and representatives throughout the county that kind of come to our board meetings, which we meet either monthly or bi-monthly or as needed. So our research farm is located just south of here, but west of North Star. We have approximately 139 acres, and land was donated to us for the research purposes. Our team. So kind of briefly went over it. The team is consists of one research coordinator, one research scientist, myself, which is the manager and extension coordinator, Amber, who is our operations assistant, and then we have mechanic art. Besides that, throughout the year, we'll hire several research summer students, depending on project basis or need and experience. So if we have returnees, we'll tend to hire less than if we have new people coming in, but not that we're complaining in any way. Now capacity, we're able to do small plot research. We've started expanding into the producer research with the Living Labs project. And then we started to increase size demonstrations of projects. So we have a couple of demonstrations that are larger than the typical small plot size. Additionally, we've started doing some other mini projects, which is like our soil health benchmark, which is where you go throughout the County of Northern Lights, taking soil samples of producers' lands so that we're able to kind of benchmark to see where soil is in Alberta and also where it is regionally. This is also increased by the pollinator project, which we started, which is us going around taking pollinator samples of the area so that they know native bees in the region that we have to host them. We do know that there's lots of native bees in the area, so this is kind of just more of a benchmark of it. And then we do the water sampling for the county, which is something I know the students enjoy, going around taking water samples of the rivers and then sending those in for analysis and reporting.
I got a question. Do you
Yeah.
guys test it after the Mercer incident? You guys tested downstream from in the Peace River too?
So no, we don't do the Peace River. That's one of them that wasn't on we do the Notikewin, we do the Keg, and then a couple of the smaller ones like the White Mund one. Yeah. So Peace River is not on our list. It's something we could look into doing. But yeah, no, unfortunately not. And that I heard about that and I went, darn, too bad. But we do the other. The goal is with the smaller ones is they're more encapsulating of the farming fields runoff as opposed to something big like that. But it is something we could look into. Yeah, extension. So I kind of just did a brief encapsulation of all we do. So one of the things is workshops and clinics. Throughout the year, this year alone, we did environmental farm plan, we did the safe handling livestock clinic, the shelter belt and tree clinic, emergency planning. We did an agriculture drone clinic, which was based off of what kind of drones can be used and how they can be used for farmers. And then we did do a clinic / webinar on funding, and we had speakers. We had 2 clinics on those, one with SCAP funding that comes directly from the Alberta government, and the second one, which was the off-calf coming from Ardar.
So go back to the environmental farm plan, do you still assist other municipalities in filling out those applications or those?
The other municipality that we assist with that is MD Peace. Yeah.
Not Clear Hills?
No.
Well, at one time you were helping Clear Hills. But
We were, but they didn't want to renew an agreement with us.
Oh.
So we said, okay, well, it takes a lot of EFPs on a minimum. If we're helping producers, it can take up to 2 hours. And then going through them afterwards can take anywhere 2 to 4 hours, depending on what kind of farming it is and how many action plan items they have. So it was one that we thought, between MD of the Peace and the Northern County Lights, their priorities would be higher than that. So yeah, no, we haven't renewed that with them. So seminars and tours, I kind of did an encapsulation here of both our seminars and our tours that we did this year. This is not including the ones that we have coming up, but One of our bigger tours obviously is the Farm and Field Tour. We also did a small producer tour this year, and that's one we'll have again 2 more producer tours next year, at least, Farm and Field Tour. And then seminars, the PCAG update, which is again scheduled for January 2025, Peace Beef and Cattle Day. And then depending on how things go, we're looking to have, we'll have another below ground event that'll be in Grimshaw this year. And then we're working on doing a soil testing analysis kind of clinic and workshop. And then community. Community involvement is something the para has stepped up on in the regards of doing things with. And one of the main things is we're involved with the rodeo, kind of however they ask us. We participated in the community kickoff this year. We helped run an event on Saturday, faceplate painting. That was by request of the rodeo. They wanted something to involve the kids during the day. So they asked us and we said yes. And then also we did the classroom agriculture program, which is the program set up called CAP, and schools can apply to have their classes be presented to by a group or person within the classroom agriculture program. And we've signed up for that for the last couple of years. Research 2024. So this part is more just the on-farm stuff, the things that we do on our farm. I am not the specialist in this. This is Megan's thing. So there's more information on there for those that want to know. Some information is not fully uploaded yet because they're still pending trial results. But this is kind of just the brief encapsulation of what we did. One of the main ones was the variety trials. We did both CPS wheat and CWRS wheat, milling oats and peas. The peas became more of a demonstration. We didn't actually end up taking trial results with it just because we had issues with it at the beginning of the growing season, and we thought it would skew results if we continued taking data from it. But the other, our wheat, our oats, they were amazing trials. They were really great this year. They turned out really well. So as you can see, it says trials updating, but these are the varieties that we're doing. The varieties are chosen based off of a producer survey we sent out last year up until we started sending out in 2023, and we stopped collecting results in March of 2024. Use those results to pick the varieties in which we did this year. So same with the CPS wheat and with the oats and the peas. The Peace Region Living Lab, we call it for short and PRLL trials. We do them both as co-benefit collections, but also on farm. And we did 2 or 3 continued trials from last year. One being the annual clovers, the pea intercrop, and the wheat winter cereals. The winter cereals was a relay crop. The annual clovers is based off of putting in annuals like canola and wheat, and then putting clovers on underneath as seeded to see if it would help maybe the nitrogen fixation of it. That idea is kind of to show the producers in the area that they might be able to cut back inputs if clovers can fix that problem. And then the intercropping one is the same thing, peas being a little bit more of a nitrogen fixer to share with the other crops. Allelopathy, we finished our last final year of this project. It was originally a CAP funded project. And the goal of this was to see if certain crops would exhibit allelopathic effects to stop weeds from growing. And then we'd rotate between the crops that have allelopathic effects versus an annual. The idea was to measure if the following year there was less weeds, which maybe allow producers to use less herbicide the following year. Deep-rooted cover crop is an RR funded project, which everyone knows in the soils in this area, they're very clay, they're very compacted. They don't open up well. So the deep-rooted cover crop project is a project that aimed to see if we could increase the soil infiltration by putting in deep-rooted cover crops left over time, which would then allow water to seep into the ground better. So it would rotate between a year of deep-rooted cover crops, which could then be used as feed for those that are mixed farmers. For their cattle, the feed would then be tested, and then the roots would be left in the ground, allowed to decay, which would then increase the soil infiltration size. It's just, okay. These are the last 2 projects we have funded by Alberta Grains. They've now moved to field scale projects called Plot to Farm. But these projects are some of the producers' favorite projects, which is the wheat seeding rate, and then also the EF trial. The wheat seeding rate is one where we change the rate of the seed to see kind of at what point do farmers, are they losing by seeding higher or are they gaining by seeding higher? This project is one that's kind of cool to see because we'll say how many what we'll put in pounds per acre, and farmers like to know, like they'll be, oh, I didn't think, I thought that would be too much or that's too little.
So where do you post your results? You have them online? or-
Yes, so the results will be posted online. We're gonna work on sending out a new way now too, but they are posted online. Directly, our annual reports, which are made, we'll send those out, and then from those annual reports, we also post them online. And they'll typically come out before our AGM in March. The EEF trial, which is the nitrogen release, is comparing two or three different types of nitrogen fertilizers on the crops to see kind of which ones perform better. Then we move into some proprietary projects. Proprietary projects are a good way for us to increase what's going on in our area, to show what's going on, new products, new technology, show it to the producers in our area, but also they're usually companies will approach us to do it. So then we do ask a little bit more of that, and that funding can go to other projects or other parts for us. So in this case, the Premier Tech product trial is one where we were able to ask a little bit more, and that money was to help fund our variety trials. Same with the Nutrient Plus product trial. There's two trials from Performance Seed that we were able to bring in this year. We're hoping to expand our proprietary research, because the more proprietary research we can go in, the more expands for research producers here can see. Lots of results. Megan's a specialist on these. We do have the perennial forage project. So this is one that's continuation from 2023. This is for the producers in our area that do grow more of your perennials, livestock farmers. It's one that we like, but we're thinking of redoing it or restarting it for next year, because we're at the point now where lots of these trials are kind of being outcompeted by weeds, and it's time to restart it. It is one that producers like to wonder. They like to see what alfalfa varieties or grass varieties can last the longest in the Peace region. And then one of our favorite ones is the Crops Garden. So Crops Garden is a demo that we do, which is just a bunch of different crops throughout the year that we'll seed. These products are kind of ones that aren't always grown in this region, or people are maybe interested to see if they grow in this region. So we'll put them in as a demo just for people to see how they do, the performance, and maybe decide whether or not they want it or not. There are many producers that asked about lentils or lupins. Lupins are known for being resistant to lots of the key diseases like Aphanomyces and other root rot diseases. So it's something that people are interested in if they want to get in. Not all of them. The reason we don't expand more into them is that there's not always a market here, but it's something that if more come in, the market may increase. So now for some of our other ones, the Regenerative Agriculture Lab, this is a bigger project. We seeded more land for this. It's not just a small plot trial, and it's a pollinator mixed one, mixed with more products that could be used. It's a varieties, it's got sunflowers, it's got turnips, a bunch of different products, and this is more as a demonstration. Not only is it good for our pollinators, but it's also great food for cattle. The East Restoration Project is one of our larger scaled projects. One of the biggest issues, and a lot of producers in this area will tell you, is foxtail barley, and kind of getting rid of it, especially for producers that maybe grow more of your perennials. So this project is one that we've decided as a no spray way of reducing foxtail barley in our area. So this will be a several year project, just to see if we can reduce the number of foxtail barley without reducing the resiliency of the land. So we're putting in deeper to cover crops, polyculture mixes, to see if it's a more efficient way of handling foxtail barley. And then the offsite projects. So as I kind of said, we have the Peace Region Living Lab co-benefits. We're in conjunction with 5 different producers throughout the region, where we go take soil samples, take land samples, collect the data, and we're doing a mix of purely scientific reviews on it. We're letting the producers pick what they want to do and then comparing it and seeing how they can improve or if things are getting better. But also we're doing a socioeconomic study with it. Soil health verification is in conjunction with all of Alberta, and it's the mix of what used to be the soil health benchmark is now the soil health verification. And it's us going through areas that were sampled maybe 20 years ago and comparing the data to today. And then the water quality monitoring project, which is in conjunction with the County of Northern Lights and is also taken into consideration. And last but not least, the native bee monitoring project. Moving forward, so one of the biggest goals that we have as an association is with the board is purchasing a new seeder for next year. Currently our seeder is just a regular small plot seeder. It doesn't have side banding rows. Doesn't have side banding or mid banding row functionality. So when it comes to any of our trials, we're unable to seed fertilizers in directly with it. So it's either a double pass method, or if there's any types of changes into the products of it, we have to do an alternating method, which isn't always the best. You have run the risk of burn off if you seed too close, or double the amount of time. Something like a new seeder would not only be good for time saving, which on all things, but also reliability of projects, and also would increase our availability for proprietary research. And then with more proprietary research would allow us to bring in more funding that we can use ourselves, like for self-funding other projects. We continue to keep our extension project strong and increase producer-led research. That's one of the other main reasons for the new seeder is there's sometimes producers ask us to do certain things, and currently we're unable to do that because our seeder just doesn't have the functionality. Where a new seeder, we can change depths, we can lift up wings and change like rates of stuff. So that would all help us to increase the producer-led research. And then kind of just continuing with our other projects as well.
So if I could just comment at the board meeting where that decision was made to go ahead with this was kind of the thought was you want to be a true research association, you got to have the right tools, right? And I mean, this is expensive, Mr. Elders, but you can't do your job without the proper. I mean, you can, you've been doing it with the old drill, and there's other options out there, but it just limits your capability, right? So
yeah,
I think long-term, it'll be a good investment.
Long-term, definitely a good investment. We're at the point now where we're not ahead anymore, we're falling behind. And there's a point where when you fall behind too far, you become useless. And I do believe that as a researcher, you should be ahead of the producers, and producers should look to you. And if they're looking at you and saying, well, you can't do what I can do, there's a lot of producers that look and are like, yeah, this is great, but I would never do it that way. And also it comes to like time saving. It's great to know that we can do that way. If something were to break down, we could do it that way. But I sometimes not feel bad, but hate to see some of my students or my research coordinator going out in the field and fertilizing something and then going again and seeding it later when they could just do it all in one go. And that saves time. That would allow her to do more things, whether that's more grant applications that would bring in more money other ways. I think it's the biggest one. And yeah, we'll obviously have a list of our sponsors and partners, and without them, we wouldn't be able to do lots of the things. Without a lot of them, we wouldn't be able to even look at producing or purchasing a new seeder. So it's really nice to see. And then seed sponsors, a lot of our seed is donated, which is nice. We did have to do a little bit of purchasing this year, but for the most part, it's always donated, which is a good look forward. And producer partners is a very wide list of people that are either donating stuff or allowing us to do stuff on their land. So Without them, a lot of the research, especially off-field research, would not be possible. Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, so, you were doing trials with some non-traditional crops,
Mhm.
and, what is some of the ones that show kind of promise for this area?
For cereal wise, lupins is a big one. The market. Unsure of yet. There's rumors that it might get picked up in Grimshaw. If not Grimshaw, Fairview, but it's just still unsure. Lupins is a big one, especially when it comes to Phanomyces and other root rot diseases. Because with peas, we know that if someone finds that they have disease in their field, peas are out 7 to 9 years. If that, if they're doing it properly. So it's a good one to help allow still a crop rotation to happen. Another one, surprisingly, flax has done really well in our fields for the last 3 years. Now,
Flax is a crop that we used to grow
yes,
quite a bit in this country, and it's becoming more rare in the last 10 years.
yeah, there's a lot of issues that come with flax, but it's one that still, if you need to find something to break up a rotation, that would be a good one for it, especially when it comes to disease. But we do know a lot of people in this area just still focus on the wheat canola, which is okay. And so we try to find other things for them too, whether that's fertilizers or pre-seed treatments. Another big one that people are beginning to bring in more is oats. Oats is a good rotational breakup, but whether it's your conventional, whether you're mixed or your organic, which our producers in this area are a mix of all of those, oats is becoming good, where they can get off a pretty good amount. It's a moneymaker for some, and it helps break up the rotation. It also feeds cattle if they need it for feed.
Be interesting how your foxtail trial goes, because that's really getting to be a problem, and I just see it everywhere you go now. It's getting more and more and more, right? And it's really a tough one to spray out because it, the spray is probably Roundup and not selective, right? So
Yeah, we found that our foxtail barley trial or our foxtail demo is one that was started because if there's part of the land that we don't do anything with, we usually put it for sale by tender for someone to cut it and use it for feed. And I was at the point where producers didn't want to cut it because there's way too much foxtail barley in it, which is very fair. So we decided to, when Lance was still here, he decided to till it because then we're going to keep it to an organic way. We tried tilling it and then now seeding it with this mix. We found that our numbers of foxtail barley was down. So our goal is to continue this. The C, is it going to stay down? And if so, then there's other parts of the farm that we'd attempted in. For the most part, we try not to till anything. We try not to rip up the ground, but it was one to see, is this maybe the most effective way of dealing with it? And then other farmers can maybe get that heads up as well. If it's not, then we can say, tilling up the ground, it worked for 1 year, but the following year it came back 3 times. And then at that point, okay, so it's not the sustainable way of doing it.
yeah, well, that's good that you're doing the research. So any other questions for Jose? If not, thank you very much, ladies, for coming in, and continue to support you.
Thank you. And yeah, anytime we'll have EFP clinics starting tomorrow again, because that is going to be required for AgriInvest for the 2025 program year. So just something to kind of know for those that are producers in the area. If you make over 1 million in net sales, you'll be required to do AgriInvest. And that's a new thing coming down from the federal government.
So you're required to do what?
For AgriInvest, you have to do your environmental agri-risk assessment. And one of those that's considered an environmental agri-risk assessment is your EFP. So
you can't participate if you don't.
You won't get the matching funds if you do not do it. So that's a new thing coming down the federal government. Where people that are able to do EFPs, there's like 2 other things you could do for it, which is that you could get your 4R designation. Or I believe there's one other one, but I don't know it as well.
So does like environmental farm plan cover that off then, or?
Yes,
Okay.
this
So if
does.
you have that, you still can get the matching.
Correct. And that's good because something like the EFP can be used for other funding for the SCAP funding.
So are most producers aware of that?
We've put the word out. I don't think a lot of producers are aware of it yet, because until it comes like directly to them from the government, they might not notice it. I know notices are going out depending on when people's year's ends are. So that's one where we're hoping to spread the word, but it is posted on their website. It's just not being pushed out there like it should be. So we're trying to start that. If anything, we'll host workshop now and we'll host a workshop in the new year.
When does that change become effective? Like generally?
It'll be for requirement of the 2025 program year of AgriInvest. So in order, you just have to submit it along with your information for the AgriInvest.
Just your certificate or whatever?
Yeah. And they'll be able to search it up too, but I think submitting it will be the best form to go. The EFP allows for 10 years, so you don't have to renew it for another 10 years after it. So I believe once they have it, it's good. I don't know the exact process of it yet, but as far as I understood is submit it in with your accountant or however you go about submitting in your AgriInvest, and that'll work accordingly. Awesome.
Maybe we should somehow spread that word out too on our website that, you know, that. I don't know, just to make more awareness, right? Because.
And I have a publication I can send you guys for it. You bet. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Oh, did you get your flash drive?
Yeah, I did.
Great. The last thing we have is correspondence information, so if everybody have a look at that. Just need a motion to accept that for information. Councillor Halabisky does that. All in favor? Carried. And that brings us to the end of the agenda, so we'll adjourn the meeting. 10:53. And Blake, maybe we can quickly get your few items in before our Municipal Planning Commission. So page 2 of the agenda again, under Ag Services. We were talking about the Ag Research and Extension Council, the Ag No update. What is the update?
Seemed Erica pulled back the funding for Agno. So they're trying to scramble and find current funding. We just put it on here as an update because you guys did give them $2,000. So that's kind of, where's that money going? If it was supposed to be temporary bridge funding till they could secure more grant funding, and then all of a sudden Erica kind of seems like they pulled their legs from out from under them. But what's her name? Linda Hunt sent a message the other day, like a week or two ago, saying she's basically scrambling, trying to find more funding and trying to get meetings with Dan Williams. I'm not sure if anybody here wants to reach out to Dan, as he's a MLA here, and kind of just say this is important. We have sent funding.
Health and wellness too, right? So.
Well, that's why she's meeting with him, right, to try to get funding through them. But it's kind of seemed like it's stymied in the governmental process of getting shuffled on from different organization to different organization. So I don't know if anybody here, like, you probably have a fairly good relationship with Dan.
We'll be seeing him next week, so I can put it on his radar too, I guess. What would happen if this Agno, if the government doesn't come through, will it kind of collapse in, or who's gonna fund it?
Most likely, and would be my opinion, if they lose funding and they have to lay staff off and nobody, it's just speculation, but if nobody's there to run with it, it's kind of something that will probably die until it gets picked up in a different form, right? But we just more wanted to bring it to your attention because you did give them $2,000. I know it's not a lot of money, but it's kind of the hope was to give them $2,000 to see that. They kept going, and it's just like, well, where's that money going if you're just dying? Is it just gonna get burned as long as possible when you know you're kind of going down a road to a dead end, right? So I don't know, like I said, if you meet with Dan, maybe you can mention it to him and say, hey, like, this is something we funded. We think it's a issue from our area, and we'd like to see you as both our MLA and the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions to kind of like get something done here, but
Well, I mean, it's not just our area, it's the whole province, right? I mean, it's-
yeah.
Whether it's our area or not, which it probably is some, but, okay, well, that's good to know that. Well, it's not good to know. It's bad to know that they're not gonna pick it up, but, this. So you get a motion to not receive that and advocate for our Minister Williams.
Yeah, if you have the chance, I guess.
Somebody
I
wanna
can make that motion.
Okay, Councillor Stevens, motion, all in favor? Carried. And then what about the level of service discussion, which? Whatever that's gonna end up with.
Yeah, I'm just kind of bringing this forward, basically with the discussions we had with Tim and Bloom that day of possibly increasing level of surfaces and doing things different at the county and providing a higher quality level of service. And budget season coming up, just trying to think, we have heard some complaints. I feel like it's the same people over and over. But now would be the opportunity if we wanted to change something for 2025, look at some options. So I kind of put some rough numbers there. I did talk to our current guy doing our mowing, and he said he does have another tractor, so 4 units. So he says he's pretty confident he can do a half full cut, half shoulder cut if we want to go up to that level of service. That'll cost us roughly, where are we here? So currently we're at 263,720, and 2025 will just be the north half county wards 5, 6, and 7 as a full cut. If we go to adding a half shoulder cut in the south wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 for 2025, it'll cost us in the range of 425 to 450. I do have a preliminary number from Aaron that kind of falls in that range. I just didn't want to get too specific, but he would be open to entering negotiations and putting in an addendum in his current contract if we want to expand. The contract is only a 2-year contract. So if we just want to carry on as we are till the contract's over and then go back to the drawing board, we can do that as well. In the past, we did 1/3 full cut, 2/3 shoulder cut. I kind of personally feel like after doing that for 6 years, we were actually losing control of the brush. Like by the time we come back on a 3rd year on a full cut, the brush was getting pretty tall already. And it was getting to be a lot to ask contractors, hey, mow that 7-8 foot poplar down, and they were pretty reluctant. So I don't really know where you guys want to be for the money expenditure thing, right?
So in your opinion on our present program now, is this adequate to keep the brush under control? That was kind of the purpose of it, right?
Yeah, so previously the way we were doing it before, 1/3 full cut, 2/3 shoulder cut, basically only doing the 15 feet of the shoulder. To me, that's full cut 1 every 3 years. The 1 out of every 2 years is an improvement over that. It's just in the conversations we've had with Bloom, are we going to place a priority of level of service of other factors on top of strictly brush control, whether it's aesthetics, visibility, safety, that we've heard concerns from ratepayers about. Are we going to place a level of that and justify that expenditure? I guess is more where it comes from. I do like the mowing of the brush full cut every 2 years as a brush standpoint. We can go back to doing more. If you'll see later on for spraying, we can go back to doing more blanket road spraying, but that's going to be a cost too. Before we used to try to do about 1/5 of the county, and that was costing us, between contracted spraying and chemical, was costing us about 150 grand a year.
So that road spraying was for everything or just for brush?
A lot of them would get broadleaf weeds, so including your small saplings, it'll control a lot of the chemicals we do use, whether on label or off label. But when you use, say, something like Tordon 101 or Aspect, it will get brush as well as a host of broadleaf weeds as well.
How about the grasses?
No, it's only the broadleaf, so it'll leave your monocots, your grasses.
My opinion, we got a contract for doing full cut half one's, south last year, north next year. I think we should just honor that, continue it, and reevaluate this when that runs out.
Yeah, we'll be honoring that contract no matter what. It would just be if we wanted to negotiate with him to add on extra. But what I'm hearing is Terry wants to just keep it as it is, existing till the contract terminates and revisit it in about a year from now.
A year from now, I mean, there'll be a new, could potentially be a new council by then, and I think that would be a time to look at it. I mean, I know people are happy with not getting any cut, but that's the way we've done it, and that's probably the best bang for our buck right now. One more year, probably not gonna be the end of the world, and if there's appetite to do a shoulder cut, do a full cut, and then a shoulder cut on the other half of that year. But you said that's gonna bring our budget up to possibly 450,000 from 263, so that's a significant increase, right?
So the shoulder cut comes into about 60 to 70% of the full cut rate. And that's just because it's not exactly half of a full cut rate, because there's costs associated with travel, lodging, labor, right? And transportation. So that's why it runs about 60 to 70%. And that's right in line with what Peter was charging us before. He was charging us 73%. So actually a little bit more of his full cut rate on shoulder cut, the previous contractor. Aaron's never bid a job on shoulder cut, so his number kind of come in at like that 63% of his full cut rate, which was a little better than the previous contractor as well. But it still adds up because there's a large volume of roads, right? There's another 2,000 kilometers roughly to mow shoulder cut. So
if you move to a full cut, whole municipality, then would you be fair to say you double that 263 then?
no, I think you'd increase it by almost 2.5 times, because you're in the same window to cut the grass. So now you need, instead of needing 4 mowers to do it, you need like 6 mowers. So that's staff time, more lodging, right? So it's not as simple. That's for the same reason why shoulder cut is not 50% of the full cut rate, because you have these other factors that play into it, right? It's typically what we haven't seen. Like the other option is looking at owning some mowers ourselves, but that's never been super, we've never been pro that, right, over the last 10, 11, 12 years to own any mowers and extra staff, right? But the only reason it's here is we're going into budget and we need to make this change before we adopt the budget in the next preliminary budget in the next month. So this discussion, just with what we discussed with Bloom, what are our priorities? Are we going to place priorities differently than we have in the past? And I'm fine if we choose option 1 and we just stay with the current level we're at, or if we go with option 2 and do half full cut, half shoulder cut. We can also vary at any level before we could go to a 1/3 full cut, 2/3 shoulder cut. And that'll change the ratios a little bit, but it'll be a little bit less than 425, but it'll be more than 260. It'll probably be running around 375, 380.
From the feedback I've gotten, like option 2 is probably more desirable, but like, the contractor we have right now is having trouble doing half the forwards last summer, so how are we gonna do the whole county, right, with 1 more mower?
Well, he started with 2 mowers. Then we got really wet in June and July, then had a breakdown. Then he eventually got 3 mowers running. This plan, if we go to the other, he's gonna show up with 4 and buy a 5th standby one. So he isn't gonna increase the amount of mowers he has. So like, we're not gonna expect that he shows up with just 2 or 3 mowers and try to get it all done. There will be an expectation placed in the contract when we do amendment to the contract, requesting that you will supply at least kind of 4 mowers to get this done, right?
So how, does he have a contract that has a expiry date on it? Like when will we put this out for RFP again? Like there might be some.
So he's a 2-year contract, so after like next summer, that contract will just kind of self-terminate.
So we go back to the model we had before, where we did 2/3, 1/3, or whatever we decide that might be. Maybe there'll be some other prices come in that might, we had a contractor previously, right, that
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Maybe there's more interest from other people that,
We had 3 bids last time. We had 3 bids the time before when Aaron got the first contract. And from the same people, it was Peter submitted a bid, 4B Ventures, and well, I guess Backroads Contracting, I think they switched to. And then we had another guy out of Manitoba and Saskatchewan, Silver Dirt, and then Aaron as well submit. Those were the same contractors. And then Peter's, the last time we did it, Peter's nephew put in a bid, but Peter was gonna kind of help him. So it kind of came from Peter, and both times Aaron's been the cheapest by about 30 grand, I think was the next one.
I guess we don't know that. We can only speculate that there might be some competition and.
The other thing we can do too is if we have concerns about Aaron, is we can put out the contract for just shoulder cut in wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 and open it up to everybody to put in a bid, see where those numbers come at. Possibly choose a different contractor or stay with the contractor. I just figured because he's already under contract, we would reach out to him and see like, hey, are you interested in this? Which he said he was, and then get numbers. If we think his number's too high, like if he comes back at 63% of his full cut rate, and we think that's more than we want to spend, we can open it up to tender for a 1 year just shoulder cut of wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 is another option. Like we're not tied into Aaron, but we'll honor the contract he's gonna do for 5, 6, and 7. That makes sense. That's also an option.
Makes sense too. Estimate wasn't 63%.
Yeah. I think
That's
he's
in the ballpark.
in the budget of what we've seen previously. Like historically, I don't know if that's a good rate. It's just what it was the 20 years before when Peter and his dad did the contract. That's all I really have to go off of because we've had pretty stable contractors the last few years. So that's another option if we want to throw it out to tender. And that's also important why it's here now, because that would have to get out right away to give enough time for somebody to find the equipment. Because if we wait to make this decision until like February, March, April, there's going to be no time to put it out in tender and get a contractor, right? So
we'll talk about this at budget meeting now. Or you want a decision today?
I think Gerhard wanted a decision today. That's why there's options on the board.
I'm prepared to make a motion on it. I would stay with what we're doing, the term of this contract.
Okay.
Revisit it.
So we have a motion by Councillor Reese that level of service will stay the same for the 2025. Any questions or discussions on that? Don't see none. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Kaylin, where were you at?
In favor.
Okay, that's carried 6-1.
The other thing I just wanted to touch on, level of spraying. Basically going back to Tim and concerns about maybe safety, visibility, aesthetics. Would we want to go to a program where, say, we spray the shoulder of the road for stuff like stuff that's not a regulated weed, but yet causes a lot of visibility concerns? The sweet clover will grow 3 to 5, 6 feet. We have sprayed some in the past on like busy roads, like the road here that goes west of the county is a very busy road. We sprayed that in the past for sweet clover because like 1 year it was like 8 feet tall, got a lot of rain, and it was a concern, right? It's not something we do broad. It's like if the road's busy, we go and do sections of it, but it's not something we normally do. Is that something we want to do based on discussions we've had with Bloom, right?
I just found
Myself,
that
I wouldn't.
years ago when they did that spraying, and I mean, I always keep my own ditches mowed, but that's not everybody does that, but they come along and spray, it would kill everything. Like, I don't know what they were using, it must have been something other than Pordon, because it killed all the grasses too.
Okay.
So you had this moonscape of dead vegetation there, that 2 weeks later, the new stuff started poking through the weeds, right? So you had a bunch of hawksbeard and thistles, and so it was I think it was a terrible thing to do. I mean, for brush control, if you could be selective and do brush, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Tordon, if you get the rates wrong, you will burn your grass for sure. That's more operator error, like typically it shouldn't happen, but. I'm only bringing this up just based on discussions we had with Bloom and just trying to get a gauge, like. Is there more money we do want to be spending? Like my budget's fairly small compared to public works, but it's just of the two things in my budget that regard to like public level of services. These are two things we could change if the appetite's there. If the appetite's not there, like it's not really coming. It's not coming from me. I'm just more putting feelers out. Like, what do you guys want to see? Do you want to see something different based on what you're hearing from people that live in your wards or not?
We heard that people would like a higher level of service, but they weren't willing to pay higher taxes to.
Yeah. So I'm fine with, like Josh has plenty of scenarios of budgets I gave him during budgeting, so it's more just. This is the way you guys want to go, which is basically what we've been doing the last 10 years. We just. Leave those in the background. He knows which ones to select and then the budget's done for the budget meeting.
Yeah, I think that we'll just leave it as is for now, and then it's something we can discuss in the future again, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we got.
That's all I have.
Next week, we'll recess the meeting again, and we'll call to order our Municipal Planning Commission meeting.
Another agenda.
New agenda. I think we have somebody online from ISL, I think. Debbie, are you there? We got the whole team there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry.
Okay, so
Today, pardon me?
we can hear you.
Okay.
So
Today we have an application.
Oh, we'll just go through our agenda quickly, Debbie.
Okay, sorry.
So adoption of the agenda. Okay, Councillor Zinsky, all in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes from our previous MPC meeting on October 22nd. Any discussion arising? If not, I'll get a motion to acknowledge receipt of the minutes. Okay, Councillor Zinsky. Oh. Get you next time, Kayla. All in favor? Carried. And we can move down to 4.0, planning and development. We have development permit.
Okay. The applicant is proposing to locate a new 139 square meter modular home, a 12 by 20 deck with a ramp and a sea can on the property. It's an 8.95 acre parcel on lot 3, block 1, plan 1423041 within the southeast 29223 west of the 5th. The dwelling will be 17 feet in height and meets all the applicable setbacks. The dwelling will be serviced with a septic tank and a pump out. Access to the site will be from Township Road 920 and an internal road. Now, the subject site is located 2.2 kilometers northeast of Manning town limits. A CN rail branch spur line right-of-way is located immediately west of the proposed development. The south side Notakewin area structure plan states that a metal safety fence was constructed by CN and a 20-meter municipal reserve was provided adjacent to the rear of the site. The ASP also states that 750 trees, a row of willows and 2 rows of spruce trees have been planted within the MR to act as a sight and sound barrier. A recent site inspection revealed that there is a barbed wire fence and there are spruce trees and some trees adjacent to the rail line. At this time, 2 of the lots have been developed within the subdivision. One of them immediately adjacent to this lot that MPC approved on October 7th. A similar development was approved with a front yard setback of 45 meters. And at that time, ISL assumed that all those development requirements, the metal fence and all of the trees had been included in the original development. And this here lot is part of a 19 lot country residential subdivision and is designated Airport Protection District Zone 2. The ASP also states that the subject site and adjacent lots are safe from flooding, erosion, subsidence, and each have a suitable building site. Both the land use bylaw and the ASP have recommended that a 15-meter setback from the spur line be provided, and this has been provided. There's 220 meters. It's considered discretionary use and requires approval of MPC. All of the referrals had no issues with the exception of the CN Rail. And they had a number of comments, including that the owner shall install and maintain a chain link fence of 1.83 in height along the mutual property line. And a clause should be inserted as outlined, and the implementation of the following mitigation measures in dwelling design and construction: forced air ventilation systems with central air conditioning and acoustically upgraded windows meeting the minimum requirements of the building code and providing a maximum of 35 dBA indoor limit for bedrooms and 40 dBA for living rooms. We have recommended that the application be approved subject to what were the conditions of the previous application, and we've included the recommendations of CN Rail.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from council? If not, look for motion to approve the development permit with the 10 conditions. Okay, Louise makes that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Galen?
In favor.
Okay, thank you. That's carried 7-0.
Should they skip the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over that one, right? Yeah, so just need a motion to, yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Councillor Decken moves that we. That we accept information, development permit DP 2441. All in favor? Carried. And that is the end of our agenda. So I will adjourn at 11:19. Thank you, Debbie.
You did try to say something, but you.
Did you? Oh, okay. All right, so we'll go back to our regular agenda. And guess what? We're hitting the finish line here. 7.0, ward and committee reports. There was one submitted this morning by Gary. Any comments coming out of the ward reports? If not, get a motion to accept the information. Pardon me? Okay, yep. Galen, you would make that motion?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Info package for your review.
I did have a concern coming out of the info package.
Sure. Go ahead.
I just wondered if administration could reach out to Fire Chief Harris and find out if there was any graduates for the ceremony from the county, that maybe we could send a congratulatory letter. It was kind of upsetting that we were all out at RMA and nobody could be there. And I know that it's a really big deal for them, and we've been a really strong advocate, and we've always had somebody there. So I would just like to make sure that they know how important it is and how proud we are. If there was any graduates from the county, that maybe we could send a letter.
Okay, probably for that one. So we would reach out by letter or by email to Tim Harris, and we haven't received anything back.
Okay, so we don't know if there's any graduates from the county. So did you hear that, Galen?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so we'll absolutely, if there was any graduates, if he gets back to us, we will make sure they're recognized.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. Otherwise, I'm good.
Okay, So need a motion to accept the info package. Okay, Councillor Halabiski has made that motion. All in favor? Carried. Open mic, Dan, you got anything?
Charles kindly answered the questions I asked.
Great job, Charles. Anything else? Okay. Decisions on delegations, so the only one we need a decision on would be the letter of support for the enhancement committee. Okay, Councillor Beckman has made a motion that we send a letter of support for the grant application. I guess we have to say who the letter of support is to, right? The Manning Community Enhancement Committee. Actually, it's going to be the Manning Region as who's applicants, so.
Yes.
So you could put Manning Legion on behalf of this committee, right?
Yes.
Pardon me?
I just was looking to see if she.
No, I mean, it's, the Legion is applying for it, so that's who the letter, the grant support letter should go to. Our staff will evidently word that properly. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. And we have a delegation coming up. I guess it's not in the agenda. It's
They're just trying to join here now.
okay.
But if you need another quick break, I you probably can. They know they're scheduled for 11:30.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes to grab a coffee, grab a water, take a break. We'll join them then. We said 10.
Okay.
All right, we'll call the meeting back to order and welcome ATB to give us a update on our investments. And so Jeremy, or is it Jeremy? I can't see the screen now. Oh yeah, I see it up on top there. Just so you know who you're talking to, I'm just gonna have council introduce themselves quickly, then we'll turn it over to you and your team. So I'll start at my far right with Councillor Reeve, and just hopefully all video catches up. It's a little bit of a delay to pick up the speaker.
Right, Brent Reese, Ward 4.
Linda Helvisky, King River Front, Carthage, Ward 7.
Teresa Tupper, Executive Assistant.
Harold Stickling, I'm the CEO. Good morning.
Terry Ungarian, I'm Reeve, and represent Ward Hotchkiss Hawk Hills, Ward 6.
Gloria Deckend, I represent North Star Breaking Point, Ward 5.
Brenda Yasinski, Deputy Reeve, and I represent Ward 3, Dixonville, Chinook Valley.
Jerry Tays, Ward 1, Waterville area.
I'm Caitlin Shug. I represent Warrensville, Lac Cardinal.
So thank you for taking time to give us a presentation, and I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having us today. I really appreciate the flexibility to meet virtually today. I'm in an aircast today, so I'm a little bit limited mobility wise, so appreciate the virtual connection today. By way of introduction, my name's Jeremy King. I'm joined today by my colleague Quick. I think I've allocated about 15 minutes. Is that right, for a quick overview?
Yeah, whatever it takes, we're good with that.
Perfect. And then we're happy to hang out as long as it takes and answer any questions that may come up. We've got the formal presentation up there, but if any questions jump out at you, please jump in, interrupt. Happy to keep it more conversational or whatever works best for this group. But in an effort to stay on time, we'll jump right into the presentation today. So our overall objective today is to provide some color around your investments. We'll do a quick update on the firm side and what's happening at ATB. We'll talk about, Kim's going to walk through the economic cycle and the market scenarios that we've been seeing over the past year And then we'll zoom into your investment portfolio, the structure, the purpose, the objectives, how the portfolio is done historically, and what we're thinking going forward. And so that's the meat of what we're going to cover off today, some big topics. Is there anything else that's not on this slide so far that anyone has interest in today? Or does this sound like an okay plan?
No, I'm seeing nothing, so, looks good.
Okay. Perfect. So we'll jump right in very quickly on the firm side. So ATB Investment Management is the organization that Kim and I work in. So a lot of people are familiar with ATB Financial, the parent company, the bank side of the company. We are the investment arm, a growing and established investment firm of over 27 billion in assets. We build really strategic wealth creating portfolios. Multi-asset portfolio construction is our big focus. We've done really well over the past 20 plus years now. We've got a really strong track record. Last year, we were one of only 2 Canadian firms to have over 90% of our assets in top quartiles for performance. So things are going really well, and we're looking to expand throughout Alberta and work with more and more organizations from our institutional team. So Kim and I are on the institutional portfolio management team. I think it's the next slide here. And so we work exclusively with organizations across Alberta, helping them with their long-term investment programs overall. So we're in conversations with councils, boards, committees, staff members on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we understand the unique institutional investor profile and the issues that are most important for investors like yourselves. So we have a number of specific county and municipality clients in our book as well. So we're having conversations all the time and trying to understand the trends that will impact your organization on a regular basis. But I don't want to talk too much about us today. Let's jump into, I'll pass it over to Kim to talk about the economy and a little bit about the craziness we're seeing out there.
Thank you. I'm just going to make sure that I'm coming through. I had some audio issues. Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, as Jeremy mentioned, it's a bit of a spicy economy. I think if we came in and did this presentation maybe 2 or even 3 weeks ago, that top line, inflation has fallen, it would have said inflation is falling and is no longer the main concern. But now with this new Trump presidency, we're seeing renewed upward pressures. And it was very clear in the latest interest rate cut by the Fed. In Jerome Powell's statement, there was a particular line that everyone is paying attention to that was removed from the statement. And that was, I'm going to look at my notes so I don't get it wrong, but that was greater confidence around inflation moving sustainably towards target. And so that greater confidence was removed because they're paying close attention to what a Trump presidency can do from a trade perspective, increasing geopolitical tensions, and how that can relate to inflation. And so we're also seeing that Bank of England, they just cut rates and they passed a budget, and there's some concern that that budget could be inflationary. So they're being very cautious with their interest rate decisions going forward. But if we just pay attention to North America right now on the trade front, and one thing I heard from a research call was someone said, and I really like this, is take Trump seriously, but not literally. So a lot of the rhetoric that would have gotten him elected is not likely to be a hard and fast policy. A lot of his really aggressive rhetoric is used hopefully as a negotiation tool, and he has a lot of really smart people around him. But when we think about trade, we do know that the US, Canada, and Mexico trade deal that he would have signed in 2018 during his first presidency, that's going to have to be renegotiated in 2026. So we'll pay close attention to that. About 20 to 30% of our GDP is based off of trade with the US, and Alberta is even more concentrated. So 90% of what we export globally goes to the US. So again, we'll pay close attention to those policies. And if we think of the economy, both Canada and the US has been slowing. The US has proven to be a bit more resilient than anticipated. And population growth has probably helped the economy on both sides of the border. So in Canada, it's likely helped us avoid a technical recession. But if we think about our GDP on a per capita basis, we're having a lot of productivity issues. The Bank of Canada has said we're in a productivity crisis. So we're going to have to do a better job of investing in our industries, of reskilling newcomers to Canada. And hopefully that we can address that productivity gap. And then if we think about central banks and what they're doing, we know that the European Central Bank, they're going to be cautious. The Fed has said that they're going to be very cautious. The Bank of Canada, we're in a really tough spot where our economy is in excess supply. We don't have that stronger economic backdrop that we're seeing in the US. And then housing is also really impacting our consumers. And so that population growth is working against us as it's increasing our need for more homes, and home builders are having a really hard job keeping pace with building the homes. The bright spot is that Alberta has done a better job relative to the rest of Canada of keeping pace with homes. But because of all of the newcomers coming to Alberta, we're seeing home prices tick up in Calgary and in Edmonton. Calgary more so. But so we're going to need home builders to continue to build. More people are coming to Alberta because our economy is getting more diverse. We're seeing more than just energy lead the way and contribute to our GDP. And then if we go to the next slide, everyone's trying to predict this landing scenario that we're going to see in the economy. And the markets have been pricing in that soft landing. So central banks raising rates just enough to bring inflation down, but not trigger a recession. We're seeing that no landing scenario uptick in probability potentially with this Trump presidency and his policies potentially contributing to inflation staying higher for longer, rates needing to be higher for longer. We do think that a recession is the most likely outcome. The labor market is cooling. We're seeing wage pressures normalize. Wage pressure is a little bit more sticky in Canada. We're seeing wage growth be elevated relative to long-term averages. In the US, wage growth is more or less in line with their averages. The one caveat there is that we're seeing pressure from unions in terms of demanding higher wages, which is great for people to have higher wages to support our housing. It's not so great as that can be inflationary. And as we see strikes in BC Port, that can impact supply chain logistics, which just feeds right back into inflation. If we think about the consumer, consumers are getting really fatigued. Consumers drive about 80% of US GDP. So as those consumers have spent down all of their pandemic savings, they're likely to be less resilient going forward. We're seeing an uptick in auto loan delinquencies in the US, along with credit card delinquencies. And there's just so much pressure on consumers and cracks in our economy right now that we do think a recession is a likely outcome. So I'll just pause there. That was kind of a quick whirlwind. I think we could spend an entire day talking about what's happening in the economy, particularly when it comes to politics. But so we'll go to fixed income right now and what we've seen. And 2023 was a positive year for bonds on the back of the worst performing bond market in over 50 years in 2022. 2022 was a really bad year for both bonds and equities. And important to note, that wasn't because of companies defaulting. It was purely just because of what central banks were doing. Inflation was hitting 8%. They were aggressively hiking rates to combat inflation. And bond prices have an inverse relationship with interest rates. So as interest rates go up, bond prices come down. And 2022 was just the math that impacts bonds. So 2023 was a positive year for bonds, and year to date 2024, it's been positive, although the path to get here has been really choppy. There's been a lot of volatility in the bond market. It's likely to continue for these next couple months as everyone digests what the Trump presidency means. And so as that yield volatility moves around, we see bond prices tick around. We do have a lot of confidence in fixed income as an asset class. We're getting really attractive yields on our bonds. We're getting a high level of income off of our bonds. And as you can see on the chart to the right, that black line is the yield curve in 2024, and the blue line is October. Time is just blending together right now. I don't know if it's just me. And I also cannot believe we're almost at the end of this year. So that blue line is October of last year and the black line is this year. And so we've seen that short end come down quite significantly. The short end of the yield curve is really impacted by monetary policy. The long end of the yield curve is more impacted by what bond participants think is going to happen to inflation. And so in Canada, Our long end, our 10 and 30 year, has come down slightly from the start of this year. In the US, it's ticked up a little bit relative to the start of this year as they're starting to price in rates being higher for longer. And we've seen a bit of that middle of the curve kind of uninvert, but that short end, we're still seeing an inverted yield curve. But again, we do have a lot of confidence in fixed income going forward. As interest rates come down, that's a natural tailwind for bond prices. And if we do see rates be higher for longer and that no landing scenario play out, central banks have more tools in their toolkit. So in 2022, they had no choice but to keep raising rates because of inflation. But now we're in a little bit of a different economic scenario. So I'll hand it over to Jeremy if he wants to add anything and then talk specifically about your portfolio.
Perfect. Thanks, Kim. Any questions about the economy or markets so far before we jump into your portfolio? Excellent. Okay, we'll keep rolling forward then. So if we jump into the county's portfolio, or a quick rehash of the history working with ATB since, over a decade, since 2010, working together with that initial investment of $3 million. The first 5 or 6 years, we built that portfolio up with some steady contributions. And then the last sort of 8 or 9 years, we've seen a few withdrawals over time. So the net amount invested over time, net of all your additions and withdrawals, is about 13.6 million. And so we've seen growth of over 6.6 million over our nice long-term track record of working together so far. We know the investment portfolio, the primary financial goal here is to earn just a competitive rate of return while without putting any assets at any undue risk. So we need to invest within the Municipal Government Act, that's Section 250 that everyone's familiar with. We'll talk about that coming up. So making sure it's prudently invested within there and trying to find opportunities for safely adding yield over time and looking to protect your assets as our number one priority. And so visually we can see that what we just kind of mentioned there, the gray section here on the slide is your capital invested. You can see that initial build up over time. Whereas almost at about $37 million back in 2016, and then some withdrawals over time. The down bars there are your withdrawals out of the portfolio, and the green section is your market value growth over time. So we've got a nice steady return profile that we've seen since inception. Excuse me, a little bit of a lingering cough from 2 weeks ago. But we're starting to see that growth. So Kim mentioned fixed income has had the benefit of capital appreciation. So as we're seeing those interest rates decline, we've seen a stronger return profile over the last year. And so that growth, that green section is starting to expand at a greater rate. So we talk about the portfolio strategy broadly. So what do we do when we have to invest within the MGA? We know that we want to protect assets as a priority. And so basically within the MGA Act, what we're allowed to invest in is national government bonds, provincial government bonds, and Schedule I bank bonds, and some GICs we can mix in there too. So that's your investable universe that we have to play with to find the best opportunities. So what we do as a strategy is we want to diversify across 2 key spectrums. Well, do I lose my presentation there? No. Do I still have you guys?
Still up on
Okay.
our end here.
Okay, just move around there. So 2 key aspects that we're going to diversify across. One is going to be issuer type. So we want a mix of government and corporate bonds. So those Schedule I banks and those safer provincial bonds. We haven't invested in national bonds in a while. We're starting to look at them. They haven't been enough yield to warrant that extra safety compared to a provincial bond. We think provincial bonds offer enough safety and a little bit better yield, so we've focused more in the provincial areas historically, but we want a nice balance between corporates with a little bit extra yield but still quite safe, and then 60% in provincial bonds. So we target around that 60-40 mix between issuer types. Then the second dimension that we want to diversify across is time horizons. So we don't want to invest everything in, say, a 6 or 10-year bond. We don't want everything coming due at the same time because that creates a reinvestment risk. So by laddering out a strategy, we want to make sure that we have regular maturities coming off the portfolio so that we're able to adjust the portfolio and be flexible as the environment around us shifts. So whether rates are going up or down, we want that flexibility and have maturities and income coming off the portfolio so we can reinvest in different areas of the curve to find opportunities to add yield in safe ways overall. So the portfolio today looks like this. There's kind of a list of the all the different issuances we've got. So we typically use ATB GICs for the short end of the curve. The last couple of years, we've been able to find some really great opportunities. ATB GICs are a great mix as they're sort of a blend between corporate and provincial because they come with that full backing of the provincial government, but they pay a yield like the corporate bonds. So it's a nice in between to be able to add. So we typically use those on the shorter end of the curve in the 2 to 3, sometimes 4-year mark. In the middle of the curve, we're going to mix in some of those corporate bonds from the different banks that you'll all be familiar with. And then the longer dated bonds today, we like the provincial bonds as they're a little bit safer. And so if we're going to hold something for a longer period of time, we like that element of safety with a little bit of yield as well for locking in over time. And so some keys to highlight here, the total market value today is just over $20.3 million in the portfolio. Yield to maturity is a measure of forward-looking estimate of return. So if nothing happens in your portfolio over the next 4 years, you'll get about 4% return. So the current yield to maturity is at 3.78%. It was quite a bit higher about 6 months ago, but we've seen some capital appreciation. So we've taken some gains in the portfolio in the form of capital appreciation. We'll see that in the performance slide. But as you get the capital appreciating, then your yields start to drop a little bit. So we're still at a very solid, almost 4%, just much better than what we've seen over the last sort of 10 years, where that zero sort of interest rate environment we've been in for a long time, or a lower interest rate environment. The portfolio's struggled to find yields like this historically. So it's nice to see in anywhere in that 3 to 6% range is great. The last piece that I'll highlight is $700,000 in total income. So we expect the portfolio to generate at least $700,000 in income coming off in different tranches. Of course, you can see it here. So the income is spread out throughout the year. Some lumps are inevitable, but we want that steady generation of cash flow over time. You can see the credit quality is all A high or better. So it's mostly AA or AA high. So very high quality credit quality overall. That issuer type, so between provincial and corporates, we're sitting right between that right around that 60-40 mark that we like overall. And I think I highlighted these yields already. So we're looking at, we've already collected about $577,000 this year, but we do expect over $700,000 from today forward on an annual basis out of the portfolio if it stays exactly the same as it is right now. If we look at the performance on the portfolio, so in line with what we've been saying over the last year, the 1-year return net of fees is almost 8%. So that's a dramatic increase from what we've seen historically. The long-term return profile was in that sort of 2 to 3% range. We were in the negative briefly there. I think when we spoke a couple of years back in 2022, as Kim alluded to, that was the worst year for the bond market in over 40 years, but we've fully recovered from that. As we've seen the interest rate now shift, we knew that by holding those bonds, those losses would come all the way back, and they have. So now we're in that positive position and earning a stalled interest rate off the portfolio on a regular basis. So forward looking, we could see, I mentioned the forward looking returns around that 3.78, that estimate of yield to maturity. We could see another year of higher returns in that range of 5 to 6%. If the trend continues where we see central banks continuing to cut rates, we could see more of that capital appreciation into 2025. So we could see another very good year, but as that happens, as we take capital appreciation, as I mentioned, that just starts to lower your yield going forward. So a good estimate, I think, over the 4 or 5 year period will be in that sort of 4 to 5% range. It's always uncertain. We never know for sure. We could see, as Kim highlighted, that no landing scenario. If growth happens to spike in Canada, inflation spikes, interest rates have to go higher, we could see some volatility to the downside. But we've positioned the portfolio sort of a middle duration spot. We're around 3 or 4 years. So a lot of people are starting to get comfortable with duration extending. Duration is a measure of sensitivity to interest rate changes. So some fixed income portfolios we're seeing start to move out the curve and invest in longer and longer dated securities, trying to get a better capital appreciation. We're starting to move in that direction, but we want to be cautious because that no lending scenario is a possibility. We don't want to put too much risk in the portfolio at the same time. So we're cautiously moving to sort of the middle of the curve as a priority right now. If we look forward at what the curve looks like today, as Kim mentioned, we're starting to see that uninverting happening. It's kind of a mess here, but these are your corporate bonds here in red, your ATB GICs are the big blue dots, and these are your provincial bonds at the bottom. And so we've got that little bit of a dip in the short term as we see short-term rates decline, what we call a bull steepening scenario, where the short end of the curve is going to continue to come down. The long end of the curve in Canada has stayed relatively stagnant, as Kim mentioned. We could see some volatility in the long end, depending on how Canada's economy holds up here. But the point is, at any time we have a maturity come off the portfolio, we're going to reassess based on what's out in the market in the investable universe and find the best spots to be investing to capture safe additions of yield into the portfolio, and make sure that we're structured overall from a total portfolio perspective so that the portfolio is going to do relatively well, regardless of the noise in the economy and what happens with the government or the economy or interest rates. We want to make sure we're protecting the capital and doing pretty well overall. That's our number one objective. And that's the end of our sort of fixed comments today, but happy to answer any questions you might have. And we're very thankful for your business, and hopefully we can answer some questions for you today.
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. So, I mean, can you just summarize, if we do go into recession, which I've heard other economists predicting we will be, is what's the impact going to be on these types of investments?
Perfect. Yeah. So because you're just invested in high quality fixed income, a recessionary scenario for you is actually relatively positive in the short term, because followed by a recession is going to be followed by central banks continuing to cut rates. And so your fixed income portfolio will get a boost, that capital appreciation boost in the short term, and then longer term, you'll earn a little bit lower return. So where a recession gets tricky is if you are invested in, say, some lower quality credit bonds. If you're invested in, say, companies like Ford or any companies out there that are issuing bonds, they might be stressed during a recession and they might see their values written down, or bankruptcy scenarios. That's where fixed income can get a bit dicey. But under the MGA, you are only investing in Schedule I banks and government bonds. So we're very confident that if we see a recession unfold, we're not going to be looking at and seeing the government of Alberta going into bankruptcy or anything like that. So we're comfortable with whatever we're holding in the portfolio will be resilient through any sort of recessionary scenario, and we'll actually see a little bit of benefit in the short term from it. So a recession isn't necessarily bad for your portfolio. A balanced portfolio is a different conversation, but we're going to get a little bit of a boost in the short term and then lower returns after that if we see a recession.
I mean, we might not hit us directly, but we're fairly, forest industry and agriculture industry are fairly important, so a recession may hurt those industries directly a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I'll turn it over to council for any other questions. I think everybody must be happy with the work you're doing, because there's pretty quiet here, so.
Or we're shocked to hear that there's a recession on the way.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, we haven't had one of these updates for some time, so kind of good to see where how we're performing and what you're holding for us. So that's looks good, I think. I mean, if we're on the black side of the ledger anyway, so.
Excellent. Yeah, if we should try and I apologize for not getting out more often. We should try and schedule at least sort of semi-annual touch points, so the group makes sure you feel connected to what's happening globally and how that connects to your portfolio. So we'll do a better job of reaching out more often and getting on your agendas more frequently, if that's okay with the group. And also, if you think of any questions, please feel free to reach out. Always happy to jump back on. I'm a digester. It takes me a day to think of good questions. So if something comes to you, please feel free to reach out. We're always happy to join again, and we'll try and get out there again maybe this summer for another chat in person.
Yeah, no, if we do this a couple times a year, that would put us on schedule for next summer, so maybe that would, maybe a road trip for you and Kimberly or whoever's on the team that will wanna come up and see our great municipal. You guys work out of the Edmonton office, I'm assuming?
Kim's at Edmonton, I'm in Calgary, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that would be, good, whether it's virtual or in person, but, we would welcome that again, and maybe by then we'll see where the recession is headed.
Exactly, yeah. Great, well, enjoy the rest of your agenda today. Thanks so much for having us and looking forward to chatting again soon.
Okay, well,
Thanks
thank
so much,
you.
everyone.
Yeah. So all we have left now is in-camera portion, so do we wanna plow through it, or does anybody want a break, or could it take us long to get through it? Let's do it, from here. Okay, I'm in agreement with that, so. So, I'll have a motion to go in camera, and we'll. Councillor Thieves, all in favor, carried. See you then, thanks for coming, Charles.
You can mute.